Good evening, everyone. We're going to start tonight's virtual meeting. We're delighted to have Dr. Mehdi Sarram to be our presenter this evening. Most recently, he's become our friend. We've had private conversations with him. What a gentleman. And obviously, with a wealth of knowledge, I'll allow our Vice President of Iranian American Society of New York, Mr. Mehdi, talk about him more. I'd just like to welcome everybody and thank you for coming, joining us on these monthly events that we're having with different speakers, with different backgrounds. If anyone has any suggestions for anything for future events, I know that myself and the Board of Directors of the Iranian American Society of America will be more than happy to consider. I would like to introduce Mrs. Tehrani as well, who is our event coordinator and the chairperson for our events committee. We all work very hard to bring you programs. So, any suggestions that anyone may have, we'd love to hear it, as we want to keep our monthly events as wanted and desired by the population as possible, so we have a large viewership. Mr. Mehdi, who's a past president, current vice president, has been a member of the board of Iranian American Iranian American Society of New York, is here. I will, without speaking too much, I'd like Mr. Mehdi to introduce Dr. Sarram, because I know over the last several months during COVID, they've become somewhat of best friends. So there's no one better than to introduce Dr. Sarram than our own Mr. Saeed Mehdi. So,
okay.
Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Hidayati, and thank you everyone for joining us tonight. It is my highest privilege to introduce our distinguished speaker, Dr. Mehdi Sarram, who will speak on fighting climate change with renewable energy and nuclear power. It is very timely, as the leader of the over 70 most powerful countries gathered in Glasgow, and 40 countries made a commitment to clean energy between 2030 and 2070. Before I pass the floor to our speaker, let me provide you with his background so you would appreciate this topic. After graduating from Alborz High School in Tehran, Mehdi Sarram came to the United States and studied nuclear engineering at the University of Michigan. He received his postgraduate degree in nuclear engineering in 1967. Upon his return to Iran, he received his honorary doctoral degree from University of Tehran in 1968. In 1965, he received his senior nuclear reactor operator license from U.S. Atomic Energy Commission. After completing his education in the United States, he went back to Iran and became a supervisor of 5 megawatts research reactor at the University of Tehran. He made his reactor operational on November 11, 1967, almost 54 years ago today, and became an assistant professor at the University of Tehran, teaching nuclear courses. In 1974, he was transferred to newly established Atomic Energy Organization of Iran, known as the AEOI. He became one of the 8 directors of the organization, reporting to Dr. Akbar Etemad, the Deputy Prime Minister and the President of the organization. 2 years after the regime change in Iran, he left Iran in 1981 and worked at the Department of Safeguard of the International Atomic Energy Agency in Vienna, Austria. In 1982, Mr. Sarram left Vienna and came to the United States to work for the nuclear industry, Raytheon Nuclear and Areva, a French multinational group specializing in nuclear power and renewable energy in managerial position. Mr. Sarram worked on U.S. government nuclear project with a high level of security clearance. Since 2008, Mr. Sarram works as an independent nuclear consultant. He has worked for Areva, MHI, and IAEA. He also worked as an advisor for the government of South Korea in Seoul in 2012. He possesses extensive experience with various nuclear facilities in 20 of 31 countries with major nuclear power programs. He has visited 38 countries and has over 50 years experience in nuclear science and engineering and 30 years in climate change. As far as the presentation and publication go, Mr. Sarram made a presentation on Iran nuclear program to United UN Security Council Committee on Resolution 1929 on Iran sanction at UN headquarters in New York City, closed door, January 11, 2012. Since 2008, he has made a presentation at various universities, including University of California, Berkeley, University of Michigan, UC Irvine, UCLA, San Diego University, and University of Connecticut, the World Affairs Council on Iran, and P5+1 nuclear agreement known as JCPOA. He has presented over 50 scientific papers. In 2015, based on 5-year research, he published a book on nuclear lies, deception, and hypocrisy, discussing the nuclear weapon program in 7 countries. He has been a member of American Nuclear Society for 58 years. With such a remarkable background, it is with honor that I present to you Dr. Sarram. Dr. Sarram, floor is yours.
Thank you. We're going to make this presentation a little casual. Like, I'll start. If I had 4 more friends like Saeed, I would run for the president with that introduction. So, before I start, I would like to thank IAS management, in particular, Mr. Hidayati, the president, Mr. Mani, the vice president, Ms. Tehrani, technical meeting coordinator, no, Ms. Tusi, the technical meeting coordinator. I just got to know these colleagues, and Ms. Tehrani, the chairperson for events. This presentation is public. You can share it, you can do whatever you want with it, you can send it overseas, domestic. It's a scientific presentation. It's based on facts and science. There's very little personal opinion that I present. And if so, I will inform you. Please save your questions to the end so I can finish hopefully in less than an hour or so, and I'll stay as long as needed to answer all your questions. So with this in mind, I will start. The topic that I am going to talk about is exactly what it is. It's a fight, it's a war. We are fighting global. I'm not talking so much about the US problems. We have our problems. We are part of the problems. Global climate change, renewable energy, and nuclear power. So that's my title, that's me. I have a full agenda. COP, you know, the terminology, sorry, there are lots of numbers. And of course, there will be a quiz at the end that Mr. Mani will send it to you. That was a joke. So COP26 is Conference of the Parties. COP21 was the Paris Agreement. So right now, as you and I are talking, there's COP26 in Glasgow with world leaders there. We talk about energy needs. We talk about our Pentagon view of climate change. The acronyms, most of you know, IEA is the most credible organization in Paris. It's called International Energy Agency. And IAEA is where I worked, called International Atomic Energy Agency. I'll express their views. Why renewable energy are good to fight climate change? Oh, this is the subject, and nuclear power, and why fossil fuels are terrible. They are the problems. We'll talk about carbon footprint, capacity factor, levelized energy costs, and frankly, mortality rates of all energy sources. You'll be surprised what you will see. I'll have a walk-away message, and we'll show some pictures about climate change in California and the rest of the world, so you know climate change is real. By the way, whatever is blue is important, and whatever is bold blue, that's double important. I don't use media. I don't trust them. These are the most credible, to me, references. IPCC, that's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. IEA, I talk about. OECD, you know about. NEA is Nuclear Energy Agency. UN, of course. REN 21, that's a Paris-based organization. I have only used one reference from US government, that's Department of Energy, EIA. I didn't want my data to be biased by what US government says, rather what the rest of the world, in particular Europe, says. Statista is a very credible research organization in Hamburg, Germany. And finally, IRENA, which is Renewable Energy Agency. So these are references that I've used for my lecture. Talk about COP26. So I'm going to talk fairly fast. There are a lot of slides that I have to cover. So it started COP21 in Paris. As I said, it's called Conference of the Parties. Why COP? Don't ask me. The agreement, original agreement that President Trump withdrew. This is not a political presentation, but facts are facts. And we need to know, and the young people need to know, that President Obama walked into COP in Paris, and the next president withdrew. That was his decision. The whole idea is to limit the temperature increase worldwide to less than or about 1.5 degrees centigrade. You may be surprised that if it goes to 2 degrees centigrade, there will be chaos in the world, that half a degree. There's a term that I like for you to remember, bold blue, nationally determined contributions, or NDCs. Iran, our homeland, each country committed to come up with a number for reduction of CO2 production. That's called NDC. They all agreed, of course, it's politics, every 5 years to come back and say what the heck they did. So why is this COP in Glasgow right now, October 31st to November 12th? Because it was delayed due to COVID-19 by 1 year. Otherwise, it would have been held last year. It's every 5 years. It will be held every 5 years. They made commitments. What the rich people promised, and they never did, is to give $100 billion a year to less wealthy nations by 2020 last year to help them adopt the climate change and mitigate the consequences. Well, did that happen? Not really. That was broken. America is one of them. But 100 billion is peanut. We need trillions of dollars to meet the requirements to keep the temperature below 1.5 C. Scientists, not politicians, are concerned that climate change could be irreversible in about 9 years at the rate we are going. That's important. That's important for young people to know. Just November 5th, look at this picture. This is Glasgow, just 3 days ago. This makes me happy. The young people are taking actions. The young people are protesting why climate change is going to create so much problem. What is the current situation? There's a little bit of progress. By the way, this presentation is not all doom and gloom. There's a lot of hope. We keep hope alive. Just look at the number of people not having electricity in the world this second. Out of about 8 billion, 7.8 billion people, today is 770, and it was 860. So more people in the developing world, South India, South China, are having access, or Africa in particular, Sahara, to electricity. But look at the second bullet. This second, or October 20th, IEA, that's a credible reference. If you don't believe it, I don't know what you're going to believe. It's not biased, it's fact. 2.6 billion, that's about a third of the people in the world, they lack access to clean cooking facilities. As you and I use gas and barbecue steak and all that stuff, 1 out of 3 people in the world does not have that. What do? They use biomass. By the way, I will talk about biomass, which is one of the 6 renewable energy sources, or bioenergy, and animal waste. Our own NOAA says 2020 was the second hottest year after 2016. Now, the last bullet also is a lot of concern to me. Today, the population of the world is about 7.8 billion. It will reach 9.8 billion. It will go up by 2 billion in 29 years. These people need food, electricity, shelter, cars, whatever. Hopefully not iPhones. This is sad. I picked this up. It's a little boy in Zimbabwe, Harare. That's just a couple of years ago. You know, I'd like for you, I'm going to work on your empathy. This child could be my grandson. It could be anyone. He's a person. And this is the condition he's studying. A little bit of IPCC chart, as I said, this is scientific. If you go to like 1850, the temperature change consistently over the past 100, say 70 years, it has reached, observed, to about 1.1, 1.2. This is the problem. I can conclude my lecture and go home. Well, I am home, but this is it. Look at the trend. It's the trend that is going up unless we do something about it. Is everybody in our country aware of it? Heck no. Is everybody in the world educated, non-educated, aware of it? No. Let me give you the world view. This is Pew Research, our own American research. I don't have time to go through all of them. In Greece, 90% of people, Greece, little country, agree that climate change is a major threat. 6% minor. Come all the way down to our own country, the US, only 59%. Israel is only worse than us, 38%. But look at the other civilized countries of Europe, elsewhere. Are you surprised South Korea, where I work in a year, 86% of people believe it's a problem, climate change? Spain, we are behind Brazil. We are behind, of course, Sweden and Canada, you would expect. This is the problem. It's Pew Research. Is it 100% accurate? Probably not. But you get a feel for where our country stands with respect to climate change. This may change every year. I couldn't find 2020 data. Pentagon, this is US government. Why is Pentagon considering climate change a national security priority? It's not Russians or Chinese are going to attack us, or North Korea. It's climate change. As you read, I'll choose a couple of the bullets. They are concerned of increasing level of conflicts around the world. It will expose homeland, that's America, to more destructive effects. And it will obstruct our military's capacity to carry out its duties. There will be coup d'etat, there will be chaos in the world, flooding. They'll talk about 1 billion climate refugees, 1 billion climate refugees. This is not misinformation. This is for those who want to believe it. Secretary of our Defense, good guy, just January of this year, increasing temperature, changing precipitation, are creating new challenges for US interests. So if US Pentagon, not State Department, not the White House, if Pentagon is concerned about instability in the world, 8 billion people, refugees, they like something to be done about it. I lived in Canada for 8 years, working there, beautiful country. Just a data, so you know we are not biased about America or Europe. The Bow Glacier in Banff, hopefully you've gone there, melts into a small lake. But recently, this is University of Calgary. It's not LA Times. It's University of Calgary saying that the amount of water that goes into the lake has gone up 20%. What does that mean? That means these ice are melting. This is Canada. This is real. Our northern neighbor. They don't lie to us. IAEA, just so you know, is a major organization of the UN. They are concerned that nuclear power, which I'll talk about, must and should be part of the solution to 2050. I'll explain to you why. I know you may not like nuclear power or nuclear waste and all of that, but the benefits offset what you may be concerned. Second bullet, 9 countries, including the US, have added a statement that yes, nuclear power's contribution to climate change is important. The new IAEA Director General, nice guy from Argentina, Rafael Grossi, look at these numbers in bold. In the past 5 years, just nuclear power in the world, which produces about 10%, only 10% of the total electricity of the world, only with 450 nuclear power plants, 100 of them in America, 1 of them in Iran. It has avoided 70 gigaton, giga is 10 to the 9, 70 gigaton of CO2. That may mean nothing to some people, but that's a fact. Let's look at some CO2 emission. That really concerns me. NASA, September, just a couple of months ago. This data is real. CO2 level is 417 ppm. At the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, 1760, say in UK, CO2 was about 250, 260, I forget. Again, IEA data, remind you, International Energy Agency, on global CO2, just 1990, that's about 30 years ago, was 20.2 gigaton. It's nothing. Today it's gone up to 33 gigaton. I mean, I'm putting these on, I guess, to wake people up. Because some people, not you guys are here. Some people in the world are asleep. They don't want to know. They're in denial. Oh, nothing happens. What climate change? By the way, to give you a feel, this is more for students. If you want to know what is a gigaton, take 1 metric ton, 1 by 1 metric meter, and fill it up with CO2. that will be a sphere like a football of 10 meters in diameter. It's a good intuition. A sphere, 10 meter diameter, filled with CO2 is 1 metric ton. We are producing giga is 10 to the 9, okay? Now, this amount, this is sad, the last bullet. The average car in the US, one little car that you all drive, I drive, 4-cylinder, not 8-cylinder, produces the same amount, 1 metric ton of CO2 over 3 months. That's our own US EPA data. See, I'm trying to give you guys a feel for how much a car at idle, when it's idle, produces about 100 grams of CO2 per minute. When your car is idle at traffic light, going home or to work, you're emitting 100 grams CO2. That's a science, that's a fact. Average, maybe 90 to 150. I included this slide. This is amazing. Look at CO2 emission per capita. This is per person. Saudi Arabia, with not too many people, 17.6 metric ton per person. What do? They leave their cars on. They leave their stoves on. US, nothing to be proud of. You and I, per capita average, we use or produce 17.6 metric ton. That's March of this year. I look for some people to challenge these numbers. Let's go down, South Korea. You see all these advanced, rich countries, Germany, Japan, our own homeland. 85 million people, but it's 8.3, nothing to be proud of. You go all the way down to France and UK are better, India, 1+ billion. Niger, very poor country, 0.1. 0.1 compared to the US, 7. This is per capita. It's not total population. And if you want to know, again, this is just August. I've given you the latest and the best data. China as a country, of course, more people, 28%. US, 330 million, 15%. You go all the way down. Again, Iran is there, along with Germany, South Korea, Canada, these advanced nations. What does Iran do besides running these old cars or factories, no control, no regulation? That's embarrassing. That Iran, my homeland, your homeland, not everyone is an Iranian tonight, is 2%. And look at it, Italy, France, UK, 1. Now, the next 3 bullets are embarrassing. And this is us, you and I. With less than 5% population of the world, maybe around 4 something. We are 330 divided by 7.8. We consumed 16% of the world energy. In comparison, the whole EU, the whole European Union, which is 6% population of the world, close to us, we are 4 or 5%, they use 4.2%. Europe, EU uses 25% less energy than US. Are we proud of it? Some people are, because again, they don't care. It's somebody else's problem. I talked to some of my American friends, oh, who cares, or Iranian, China does this. I said, we don't care what China does, we care what we do. China has 18% population of the world, it consumes 20%. China uses 4% more energy, but it has 18% of the world. Share this with your neighbors. Share this with your younger generation. This is what people have to know. I do not create this data. this data exists. This is interesting. I live in Toronto, and this is the story about it. My little Toyota 4-cylinder, winter, cold, brutal, was on. A nice lady, police comes. They don't have guns, of course. Says, we know you come from south of the border. South of the border means the US. In our country, we have laws. If you leave your engine idling for 2 minutes, you will be fined $300. I want to say this again. This is a civilized country, small, 36 million people. But there are laws in that country like speeding, like drinking and driving. If you idle 1 minute, Chapter 517, police can fine you. Can we try this here? I don't think people will like it. Just a feel for you, the electricity of the world, 2020, sometime data 2021 is not available. I won't read all of them. Coal, the worst source of energy, 35%. Gas and nuclear is 10%. I'm very proud of that. And wind 5.9, solar 3.2. We'll go through that at the end. Just to give you a feel, you may not be able to read this accurately. The circles at the bottom show coal is on the top, green is liquids, red is natural gas. Those three guys are bad, they're fossil, they're terrible, as you will see. But look at the other. Renewable energy, gray, little bit going up, they're good. Nuclear energy is good, little bit black. Hydro, very good, little in the bottom. Now, let's go to some real stuff. How do we reduce world carbon emission? The next few slides will explain to you. I claim renewable energy sources and nuclear power offer a solution. A kilowatt of electricity at your home, that's 10 light bulbs for an hour, 100 watt, produces 200 times more CO2 than the same kilowatt electric from nuclear or wind. Gas is about 100 times. So whoever says fossil fuels are good, we should build more coal plants in America or China and the rest of the world, this is the fact. This is fact. This is UN data. This is IPCC data. Some good news, bad news. Global energy will increase by 4.6% this year, because last year, because of COVID, it went down by 4%. That was good. Actually, we produced a lot less CO2 last year in 2019, but people come back to their own habits. COVID is over, let's get in our cars, get on the highway, turn the heating and AC on, and then the rest is history. Natural gas will grow by 3.2. Electricity demand will go 4.5. Solar, which is good, solar PV, that's photovoltaic, and wind will produce about 2/3 of all the renewable. Coal, I'm trying to read, something is hiding. This is sad. This is terrible. Coal will go up 4.5% just this year. That's IEA. That's the Bible. Nuclear power probably will increase 2%, but it declined last year. I'll talk about it. Global emissions declined last year 5.8%, but read the last bullet. Already it's going up. It's projected to grow by 4.8% because of demand for coal, oil, gas. This is the world, folks. This is not just our country. Okay, sorry, a little bit of water problem. We not only have problem with electricity, but water. 2.3 billion people live in what UN calls water-stressed countries. 733 million live in high and critically water-stressed. That's UN data 2021. Today, 1.42 billion people, including 450 children, live in these areas. That's UNICEF. Nearly half of the global population already are in water scarce area for 1 month a year, and that will increase to 4.8, 5.7. This is sad. Look at these children. 800 children under the age of 5 die from diarrhea and other diseases because of contaminated water every day. I mean, do people in the world understood just what I said or what UN say? Or tomorrow we'll all forget about it and we'll go about our lives and we say, well, that's okay. 2 billion people don't have proper sanitation, mostly in South India. There is hope through efforts of Engineers Without Borders, through UN and UNICEF. These people, look how happy they are just to have water. And we have everything, and then we want an iPhone 12 because somebody else has it. More is not better. All right, some technical data, sorry, I will only discuss. This is called carbon footprint. How many grams of CO2 on the top right produced per kilowatt hour? 1 kilowatt. Your electric bill at home, probably in New York, is 400-600 kilowatt, maybe more. So from coal is 1,000. Go all the way down to wind and nuclear is 5. And yeah, I like the renewables, geothermal, hydro, tidal wave, ocean, but look at solar. Solar is like 40. So a kilowatt of electricity from solar power on your roof produces 8-10 times more, roughly, CO2. We have to know this. Some people think solar is next best thing to apple pie and ice cream. That's our own US government data. Capacity factors, which most people don't pay attention to. When a nuclear plant at the bottom runs, it runs for a whole year or 18 months. It comes down for 2 weeks. It operates during hurricanes in Florida, Boston. Sometimes they intentionally shut it down. Look at coal is like hydro, 45%. Solar, when the sun is not there, the efficiency or capacity factor is 22%. Yeah, solar is good. Wind, if wind blows too fast, it doesn't work. If it doesn't blow, it doesn't work. It's only average 37%. Biomass is better. So coal, 54 to 60. At least its efficiency is not bad, but it produces CO2. There's going to be a little equation after this. The cost, we call it levelized energy cost. From beginning to the end, lifetime of a plant, coal plant, 40 years, nuclear, 60, 80. If you want to know in cents, just go back, that's dollar per megawatt. So you can go 1 decimal, 24 cents. Nuclear is about 9 cents. It's competitive. Geothermal is cheaper, 4.8 cents. Solar is 12.5 cents. Solar cost has come down considerably, but it still is expensive for average household or average person. Natural gas, 14. Wind offshore, you put it in the ocean, 19 cents. Solar thermal, 24 cents. Keep this chart in mind because cost is important. And this is a little equation for those engineers who are there. And if you want to calculate, this is simple freshman college. You take a sigma from T equal 1 to N, and you add all those parameters. So life of a nuclear power plant is 60 to 80 years. Fossil is 40 years. A wind tower probably breaks down after 15, 20 years. Solar on your roof probably lasts 15, 20 years, 18 years, 10 years, depending on how good it is. So you have to look at life cycle of the source of your energy. Hydro is good because the water is always flowing. And finally, this is MIT data. Professor Kerry Emanuel is one with Hansen of NASA, who wrote a letter to President Obama, 2014, convinced him to join the Paris Accord. He's a scientist. You may not be able to read it. Total deaths from nuclear is 90, wind 150, solar 450, hydro 1,400, gas 4,000, coal 15,000 in US. 15,000 people die from the coal industry in the US. Nobody talks about that. Oil, 36,000. Coal in China, 280,000. So, what is my point? When you want to choose a source of energy, renewable, oil, coal, gas, you have to look at capacity factor, cost, mortality rate, efficiency, and carbon footprint. And you put that into a computer and you say, for me, I choose this source of energy and nothing is ideal. So the benefit of nuclear power, we've already gone, despite all the accidents, 3 or 4 that we've had. Nuclear power is a clean source of energy, producing 10% electricity of the world, and about 19% of the electricity in America today, this second, is by about 100 nuclear plants, less 96 nuclear power. Good or bad, it is what it is. And it's reliable, especially in New York City area. We should maximize renewable energy and nuclear power and minimize fossil fuel. I'll read this quickly. As I said, we have about 400 nuclear power plants now. The world will build another 800, it's expected, by year 2050. The share of nuclear will never go up really high from 10, 11%, it may be 13, but that's good, clean energy, reliable, 92% of the time is online. So the question that I ask myself at the end is, why doubling the world nuclear capacity in 2050 does not increase its percent? Maybe one of you can answer that. Leaders in the world are still US with 97 plants, then it's France. China is the only country building a whole bunch of nuclear power plants. Iran is planning to build 2 more. US is just building 2. Shame on us. UAE, our neighboring country, United Arab Emirates, just bought 4 nuclear plants worth $25 billion from South Korea. And that was the project I worked on for a whole year in Seoul. So you may wonder, Iran, UAE, they have gas. Why did they build nuclear power plants? The answer is simple. The lead time for nuclear is 10, 20 years or more. Eventually, these countries, including Iran, will run out of gas and oil and coal if they have. So something has to replace it. So I'm a fair person. Why are people, some opposed to nuclear power? First, the nuclear weapons, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, killed 70,000 each. Nuclear waste, that's a whole separate subject that I've lectured. Other countries in Europe, France have solved it. You have to trust me on this, maybe you don't. Nuclear waste in America is not a technical problem. It's a political problem. They do not want to solve it. That's all I have to say. We had a national repository, Yucca Mountain, that we could have stored all the nuclear fuel ever produced, and they shut it down. Politics. France does it. We taught the world about nuclear power, and they're about 10, 20 years ahead of us. It's sad. Japan, South Korea, Russia, they're 10, 15 years ahead of us. So maybe we'll buy nuclear power plants from them. And of course, it's the element of cost, $5 to $6 billion. Manpower, you need hundreds of technical licensed operators, like captain of a jumbo jet. You need those and even more qualified. Okay, I'm going to start quickly to go through 6 renewable energy sources, biomass or bioenergy. Sorry if I don't have time to read all of it. Bioenergy produces about 10% of total energy. Now, this is not electricity, it is energy. And as I said, it's used for cooking and heating. Now, biomass is good. We burn wood in California, elsewhere. If we plant trees, it will absorb CO2. But if we fail to plant trees and burn wood and biomass and garbage of our houses, that's terrible. Then biomass becomes terrible. Do we do that? Look at 5 top nations: poor, Ethiopia, Republic of Congo, Tanzania, Nigeria, Haiti. These poor nations have nothing. They don't have nuclear, they don't have the water, they don't have anything. So just burn wood and animal waste and all that, and then they cook. California biomass is actually good where I live now for the last 13 years. 29 plants produces 600 megawatt of power, and it converts 6 million tons of biomass into electricity. But are we planting trees in California enough to offset the burning and the fires of Yosemite and Northern California? The answer is probably no. Wind, quickly. Wind is good. We have 111 gigawatt compared to 50, so it almost doubled. China added 72 gigawatt. US only added 14. You be the judge. The top producers are China, of course. Then it comes US. Then it is Germany, India, all the numbers. This is not for discussion tonight. It's just for you to have and digest it later on if you want, or share it with your family. Denmark has a big wind power capacity of 8 megawatt. 8 megawatt is 8,000 kilowatt. It feeds 8,000 families or people. A civilized person needs about a kilowatt. So 8,000 or 8 megawatt is about 8,000 people. Look at the height. It's more than twice the size of a soccer field. And the diameter of it, I'll show you a picture, is 164, 1.5 times the football field. Now, what's wrong with wind? I love wind energy. It creates noise, it kills birds, it impacts pattern of temperatures. When wind blows, say, from San Diego, LA toward Las Vegas or vice versa, it brings humidity or dry air. So over tens of years, it impacts the environment and the temperature. These are not good. We are manipulating into the nature that this is dry, we make you wet, or vice versa. By the way, in Montreal, where it's ice cold. Ice gets collected on blades and it turns and it can hit a car or kill a person or whatever. Now, for the next slide, I need a volunteer. I think I'll ask Mr. Mehdi to join me. This is real, folks. Look at those two people having lunch on a tower, probably, I don't know, 100 meter, maybe 120 meter tall. And can somebody help me climb and look at the size of the blades? You don't see this close by, but this is an actual wind tower. This probably produces about 3,000 kilowatt power when it's operating. But remember, efficiency is 22%. It only works 22% of the time. The other times, shut down. So it's not reliable. It's good, clean energy, not reliable. Solar, we talked a little bit about it. It went to 156 terawatt hour. Tera is 10 to the 12. Solar, with all the solar power, is only about 3% of total global electric generation. Remember, nuclear is 10.1%. So we still don't have enough solar power in India, China, Iran, elsewhere to produce electricity. Solar power, US, please take a look at the number. In European Union, after doubling in 2019 for 15%, EU countries are trying to, meet the goals. Now, what I love about California, among other things, is my state. I'm in San Diego. Starting last year, if you build a 3-story apartment, house, whatever, you must by law produce electricity by solar. Can we copy this across the country? I mean, solar is not for New York City. You don't have enough sun. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But look at it. There's some good things happening. People are waking up. Produce electricity from solar if your house or apartment is 3 stories. There's another kind of solar power called CSP, concentrated. That's in Mojave Desert, where you get the sun lens and you concentrate and you boil water and steam and you produce it. That last term, the last bullet, NZE 2050, you see a lot of that in Glasgow. It's called net zero scenario, net zero. By 2050, we hope to reach net. That's idealistic. Few more slides. Electricity from ocean. We produce electricity from tidal, not so much in California or Bay Area. Denmark produces 200 megawatt. That's 200,000 kilowatt. So they feed electricity to 200,000 people from tidal ocean wave. France was the first country with 240 megawatt, then it's Portugal, 1966. Let's go back to 60 years ago. South Korea has a huge plant. France, Canada. I'm just trying to reach, Scotland. I'll show you a picture. Scotland, 17 gigawatt hour of energy was electricity connected to the grid. And here's a picture. Oh, before I go, the 5 top countries, of course, US is not there. South Korea, France, UK, Canada, Belgium, Sweden. Now, see the next one? This is the actual gadget machine. The rotors looks like a wind tower, but this goes underwater, depending on the wave height, and it turns and it produces electricity and it comes to your home. This is in Scotland. This is CGen at Stratford Loft, again, Northern Ireland. Look at the length of these blades. This actually goes down. It goes down. Look at the blades, just like a jet or wind tower or the radiator or the rotor in your car. It turns and it produces electricity. Geothermal, I think, is the last one. For every 320 feet you go down, your temperature goes up 5.4 degrees. So water boils at about 10,000 feet, and we can produce electricity. It's natural, it's clean. The largest plant, the geysers, are in California, 22 plants. And you can read the numbers in other countries such as Indonesia. Turkey is coming up. I don't know where they find, the geysers or hot steam, but this is a good, clean, high efficiencies like coming up. This is in Iceland. There's a little plant. You produce electricity, it's coming up. Get the steam and produce electricity from it. Simple, no CO2. Hydro, sorry, the last one, is always there. Every country just about has it. But the second bullet is amazing. 50% of all the hydropower in the world is produced by China, Brazil, Canada, and the US. We are in, at least we are in something. OECD countries produce about 1,1445.7 terawatt. There are too many numbers here. The last bullet, 3 facilities are over 10 gigawatt. 3 gorges in China, you're all familiar with that. The Tapio Dam in Brazil, 14 gigawatt, and Guri Dam in Venezuela, 10. These are huge, 10 gigawatt. That's 10,000 watt, 10 to the 9. Calculate, see how many people you can feed electricity to. Walkaway message and a few more pictures, and I'm getting to my 1 hour limit. So, folks, thank you for your attention. This is it. This is a summary. As the population of the world goes up, the world needs all the renewable energy sources and all the nuclear power. But nuclear power costs $6 billion each, people, nuclear waste, so renewables are easier, solar and wind and geothermal. We should maximize those. We should minimize the fossil fuels in bold blue, but sadly, we need fossil fuels to 2050. It is sad. I wish I could report otherwise. The world will freeze if we stop using coal, gas, and oil, especially coal. We just don't have enough capacity from renewables and nuclear power for reasons I explained. Become a believer in climate change. Hopefully you all are, that's why you're here, because 800 million people don't have access to electricity. Conservation. If everybody conserves, the world will be a better place. Conservation starts with you and me and our children. Again, US is about 4 or 5% population and we use 16%. That is not right to me. I cannot, this is my personal opinion, so far much of it was factual. I cannot expect the 800 million people in the world without electricity to conserve. Mr. Mehdi, how can they conserve what they don't have? Conserve what? Burn less horse manure or wood? It's this country, our country, and I don't care what China or India does or Russia or Europe. We as Americans, 330 million people, we should be more conscious of how much energy, electricity we use. It's not just electricity, it's energy. Maybe if everyone does, things will be better. Few pictures, then I'm done. This is somewhere, I have no idea, but the good news, positive, that little boy or girl has solar power. Solar power somewhere in Africa. Look at how people live. There's a bulletin board there. California fires, you all know about it. I live here. This is in, where the heck are we? Lake Tahoe, where people go skiing. This is our ski resort. This is September 2020. This is Napa, north of San Francisco. More. Look at this man. I hope you can sleep tonight, because sometimes I have nightmares. Look at it. This is Germany. Earthwash. This is Germany. This is not California. You know, the recent floods. Are we going to believe that climate change is causing these, or still is a hoax or a fake? This one really touches my heart. This is in the island Greek of Guava. Her house is being burnt. Just 2 seconds. This is Bahamas, near us. This is recent. 82 people died. Look at homes. This is it. Now, if this is what you get, wait until 2030 and 2050. Then you will see you'll have 1 billion or more climate refugees escaping instabilities. This is what we do. We cut down trees in Amazon area, or we're just building more homes. And this is Brazil, rainforest. Australia, brush fire. Now, last slide, and I always show this because I'd like for you all to know that not only climate change is real and is here, but I am real. I'm a very, very real person. Nothing fake about me. And this is me back at the University of Michigan, 1965, night shift. Those of you who are old enough like me, you know what the slide rule is. It's on the top picture. And the control system is, this reactor is used for production of radioisotope. It's vacuum tube. We didn't have transistors or iPhones. And this is my pride. That's when we made the American supplied 5 megawatt research reactor at Tehran University. Those two colleagues, the ladies in France, my friend, and the gentleman behind me is in Germany. This is real. We are making the reactor critical, 7 p.m., November 1167. And this is a happy face that I always show for question and answers. The little rabbit is very happy next to a nuclear power plant eating. And for those who later want to study this, I have some more pictures which I didn't have time to show. I'm done. Thank you so much. And I will give the floor back to Mr. Mehdi.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I open it to everyone to ask a question, I'm sure this was actually extremely complicated and very well explained to somebody like me who doesn't know much about nuclear and renewable energy. Just we hear about it, we see it, we read about it, but never had experience to deeply and someone explain, like expert explain that. But my question is, since my adulthood, actually in 1973, the war in the Middle East, every leader around the world made a commitment that, particularly US, and since I've been here since 1975, every president from Ford to Biden, every single one, making commitment we're going to be free from oil from Middle East, either politically a statement are not our friend, or we don't need it. But really, I just look at it for asking the question. Since 1992, the number of barrels we're using literally has stayed the same. Although I understand we have more manufacturing, more cars, but literally it stayed the same as 19 to 20 million barrels a day consumption. So do you think there is any hope that all this conversation and talk and with the power of the oil company, this would even possible to change. We know the Seven Sisters used to be called, making the decision. And you think politically is possible to make a change on our direction? Particularly, I know, as you said, nuclear is a solution, but the environment is so poisonous and it's very difficult anybody even want to push for that.
Well, you ask a $64,000 question. I don't know where to start, but I will say this, Mr. Mehdi. If you and I own an oil company like Exxon, they want to make $4 trillion. It's their job to sell. It's our job to be conscious. Public education starts with my grandson, with a child in China. It will take 50 years. It will take 40 years. I give up. All those are political and stuff. Even they go to Glasgow, they come back. By the way, all those commitments about billions, or I reduce my even China and Russia are not attending. They go home and they say, the heck with it, but they criticize America. I like to remind you on that. We should lead by example. We are 4% population. We use 16%. The world says, why shouldn't I do that? So I don't blame the oil company. No, nothing is going to happen. For another 50, 80, 100 plus years, we have oil and gas and coal and whatever. We use it. When we run out, then Persian Gulf nations become just desert. Whoever has access to nuclear power and then fusion power, the next energy of the sun, those nations will be the superpowers. This is big picture. It's going to take beyond your life and my life. So I keep hope. I don't hope for anything. I only keep hope alive that the younger generation, your children and grandchildren and the children of the world, they're smart. They're smarter than me. They will figure out that, hey, first I conserve myself. First, I use less electricity and energy. Electric cars are good, but look how we are going in the wrong direction. It's going to take another 30 seconds. In San Diego, I see all these little 8, 10-year-old girls, boys, adults on bicycles with batteries. People say, oh, it's battery operated. Where do you charge these batteries? When you plug it to the garage wall, it has to come from coal from Canada, which is 200 times worse than solar. People don't want to know when they turn the toggle switch where that electricity is coming from. I am conscious of that. So I conserve. I share with my grandchildren, they should conserve. If everybody does, no guarantee. But you know what? There's this little thing I forgot to say. It's like the world. Nothing gets better until it gets worse. This is a sad story of human being, family, relationship, divorce, whatever. Things are going to get so worse. A little bit part of Miami underwater, Bangladesh underwater, coup d'etat, 1 billion people, immigrants. And the world wakes up one morning. All of our senators will wake up. Oh, really? So it's real. Until that time, no politician wants to accept. So you're right, but keep hope alive. Next one.
Next. Okay, now please raise your hand and Arisa Khanam, open the individual who are asking who want to ask question. Any question on a call?
I see a couple of hands, yeah. Miss Maheen, yeah, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much. I think we have to put together some of the other factors and not forget that the design for this so-called pandemic has something to do with what you are saying, and the factor for depopulation would come into play for the reset. The reset, I know something about it. And unfortunately, everything is related to power play, and the ones who are sacrificed, the ones who are conscious about conserving, are the ones who are always crushed by the society. And unfortunately, the humanity is moving toward a very dangerous place. And we will see. We are fighting against this massive, I would not mind to say, massive crime against humanity by these medical system, and the energy consumption. Of course, there are of serious concern. But if I want to make as a question also, first let me say that these days I keep saying خانه از پایبند ویران است، خواجه در بند نقش ایوان است. It's a much larger plan for, as I said, depopulation, and I have written an article regarding my work is on cancer and vaccine sciences. And it has been an article which was invited and reviewed, but then they had to retract it because the publisher retracted because of the medical establishments. So much for censorship. So I enjoyed what you said about your passion and your truthfulness about what we are doing. But America is not just consuming the largest amount. America is unfortunately has become a very unethical practice of many things. This was the country I loved to be. I loved to come 51, 52 years ago. I didn't want to reveal my age, but that's the way it is. So, you know.
I appreciate that there are some other hands. Mr. Mehdi, I appreciate if you coordinate. But let me just say this, Mrs. Khatami, is it? No,
Khatami.
By the way, I forgot. My email is available. You can get it from Mr. Mehdi or others. I would love to hear from you. I love, Ms. Khatami, to get your article you publish. I will in return let you know what I find. And this is going to be a little exchange of information. Beauty of meetings like this is we get to know each other. So thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Okay. So what's next? Is Dr. Nur Chashm, you are next?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mehdi. And thank you, Dr. Sarram. Extremely informative. Of course, your presentation mainly was based following the policies at the world level as at the country level. My question is at the technology level, and I understand the nuclear power generation is through large-scale investments and technology. I was wondering if there is any, or if there are any efforts underway at the research level or technology level for small-scale nuclear power.
Yeah, thank you. It's again, I'll be happy to talk to you. As we talk, New Scale in American, wonderful. There are a lot of creative companies in America. A lot of good things are going on. It's not all negative. New Scale has gotten licensed from NRC to build small size reactors, about 300 megawatt. Pentagon has asked companies to work on 10 megawatt, 10,000 kilowatt for North Pole. You know, it's for security. You know, you're somewhere, nobody is there. You need a small nuclear plant, 5 megawatt, 10 megawatt. But the point is, we got carried away, and I guess I was one of them. In the 60s, we call it economy of scale. When you build 1,000 megawatt nuclear power plant, the cost is this. If you build 2,000 megawatt, the cost goes on. At the end of the day, Mr. Mahmoud, nuclear electricity is a commodity. It's business. It's not charity. Westinghouse builds 50 nuclear plants in America to sell you electricity 10 times as much as the cost it incurs to make money. It's commodities like selling gas, potatoes, apples. So yes, but point is, for rest of the world, big countries, China, India, you can't have 10 300 megawatt reactors. Rather, you go back like South Korea, build a 1,400 megawatt plant, the largest almost in the world. Japan goes for 1,700 and France for 1,600. Now there's tendency for smaller countries, Africa, to go to 100, 250 megawatt. And companies in the world are working on it as we speak. That was a good question. If you like more information, it's called SMRs, small modular reactors. Just search for it, and it's licensed. They're going to build a couple in America. But in America, the problem is like 40% are anti-nuclear because of nuclear waste, Sierra Club. They just want nuclear. But they don't know that the power to their house is nuclear, but still we don't want it. That's it. That's oxymoronic. I want electricity, but I don't want nuclear power. Okay.
Thank you.
Gentleman.
Next question.
Mr.
The next question, Ms. Ershadi.
Can you tell us about fusion, please? A little bit about fusion.
Yes, of course. Fusion. So a little bit. After that, I'm a little embarrassed. This gentleman in the center, Mr. Koz, K-O-Z or something, he wanted to ask a question. The answer to the question is a little joke. When I came here, 1960 in Princeton, they said, fusion, yeah, we're going to do it. It's 50 years from now. Today, General Atomics next door to me, they spend billions of dollars research, Japan, Russia. They still say it's 50 years from now. Fusion will come, but it's probably, by the way, I'm a fission expert, not fusion, but little that I know. It's another 50, 60, 100 years. You know when it will come? When the world, Iran and Persian Gulf countries run out of oil and gas and America has no more. When we have no more, it's all the renewable energy sources. I talked about 6 of them, 6 renewable energy sources. They'll be here forever, maybe. Plus nuclear, and that will run out of uranium. Eventually, we will run out of uranium, the world, down the road. And then it's fusion. And my only worry is another 4 or 3.84 billion years from now, when our Earth will freeze and the sun is a dwarf and we go somewhere out yonder. So our worries are going to be only for the next 4 billion years. Mr. Carl.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Dana, please go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mehdi. This gentleman.
Yes. His name is Dr. Dana. I think you're on mute.
You're
Dr.
muted.
Dana, you are on mute.
Thank you. Yeah, he's been asking to get in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dr. Sarram, thanks very much. It was very informative. I have 2 questions. One is along the line of your specialty. The other one, if you don't know the answer, you don't have to wing it. The first one is, you recommend nuclear power for countries like Iran that are earthquake prone rather than solar energy. The second one is that how does one measure the Earth temperature, take the highest and lowest, take the average, you have got so many stations, etc. When people talk to me about the temperature on the Earth, my question is, how do you measure it statistically?
Second one, easy. I don't know.
Okay, that's good. Good that you didn't wing it. That's good.
The best answer sometimes is I don't know. But the first one, no. You see, this was, I don't want to take time. I lived in Iran. The Shah wanted 18 nuclear power program. It was prestigious. Many people would say, I give you two sides of the story. People like me, Dr. Etemad, we were saying there were like a few hundred nuclear professors at Tehran University in the 60s, 70s. We don't need that. We have oil and gas coming out of our ears. But the Shah is the Shah, and what he wants, he gets, right? It's not politics. The Shah wanted 18. He got 2 from Germany, didn't work. I wouldn't buy a plant from Russia if they gave it to me free. So the Russians came because under US pressure, the Bushehr plant. No, I don't think Iran needs to buy 2 more plants at $4 or $5 billion each from Russia. They're not Western design. They're okay now. Russia has come a long way since their accident. So the answer to your question is, but let me give you the other side of the story, what UAE is doing. And as these countries feel, and the Shah, we heard his logic, that we are going to run out of oil and gas. Nuclear power is not like captain of a jumbo jet, or you get a car driver's license. It takes a country such as Iran, UAE, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, like India, like China, to build up the base technician, electrical, mechanical. It's a very, very sophisticated line of engineering. So I'm not saying I agree, but UAE and the Shah thought, well, we're going to run out of oil and gas. So while I have the money, in 1973, oil went from $2, I was there, to $20. Let's use the oil money, invest, train people, build a bunch of nuclear power plants. So when we, as a matter of fact, except for UAE recently, Iran was the only
you're breaking up
in the Middle East that had nuclear power. And that has its own problem. So I would say there are 2 stories to that, but many countries rich in oil and gas choose to go nuclear, and many decide not to go, and that's their decision. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, any other question? I don't see anybody raise hand. Anyone has any other question?
Thanks.
I
have one comment.
Go ahead.
Dr. Sarram, regarding nuclear energy and also solar energy, is the downside that people are afraid of, what we call in finance, black swan. See, I bet you all of our friends who are sitting there, they wouldn't mind to live in next to a neighbor who has solar on his roof, but they wouldn't buy a house next to a nuclear plant.
Well, you know, that's such a called public acceptance. Sir, I took my wife and we went to Sanofi nuclear station, about 20 miles from here, and I showed her where, because I'm a nuclear operator. See, it's what you don't know that you're scared of. I'm a nuclear reactor operator. I've been exposed to radiation. I wouldn't mind my house. When I came to San Diego, my house was 20 miles next to 2 large nuclear power plants producing 1 million kilowatt each. It is safe because we design it. Now, is this 100%? Is your plane traveling safe? Is your car safe that you travel and brakes fail? Every industry has its own problem. Yes, nuclear had Fukushima. Nuclear had Chernobyl. These are all human errors. But when a plane crashes and 200 people die, New York Times writes and it's finished. Nobody talks about number of, I showed the mortality. Nuclear is 90, coal is 280,000. gas is 40,000. So if you want to be realistic, people have paranoia, and they are right about nuclear radiation, nuclear waste. Some of my best educated Iranian American friends are scared. Nuclear waste, I don't want nuclear power. It's called anti-nuclear sentiment for the right reason. And it will take time. It will take time to see the benefit. Nuclear power has its own problems, like every other industry, but it's safer, it's more efficient than all fossil fuels put together. That's my personal belief. And if I go back to 1960, when I came here, I still become a nuclear engineer, and I get involved with the nuclear power industry because that's what I believe is good for humanity. And the world, sir, is building 450 more nuclear power plants. If it's bad, why is France, China, Finland, forget about Iran, country UAE, why are they building it? Because it is safe, and safety is relative. It's relative safety. Look at that mortality chart by MIT, not by me, and then be fair and judge. Yeah, nuclear power, nuclear waste, accident, but it is a lot safer than coal, fossil, even hydro and solar. People fall off those wind towers, fall off and they die, 1,500 of them. But nobody talks about that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Dr. Nurchash will ask question. Please go ahead.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, I was going to get you a road trip to Chernobyl for you to have a look at it, by the way. It's the after effect. When something like that happens, it has a lot of after effect, but airplane guys and so on. Well, I don't want to get into a kind of a match, but the whole thing is this. It is a long time series. That's the problem with the
I couldn't agree more with you that when a nuclear accident or a nuclear weapon exploded in Nagasaki, 70,000 people vaporized, but it's the radiation, the leukemia, the after effect. Now, a nuclear, even Chernobyl or Fukushima, is not nuclear weapon. You know, I need to share with you a 3-unit course in nuclear accident analysis for a semester, and then we can debate.
Sure, I'll come and take it.
Okay, sure. Dr. Nurchash, go ahead.
Yes. From this discussion, of course, people's perception is one thing. Solving the problems of safety is a separate thing that is the realm of technologists and scientists and so forth. How safe, related to Dr. Dehnat's question about the earthquake centers in Iran, how safe is that? How are those problems resolved at the technology level?
Yeah, if I understand, you're asking about the Bushehr plant in south of Iran, right?
Right.
Yeah. I was there. Atomic Energy Organization of Iran in 1974. I am not a seismologist, but we brought the best experts from Europe and America. We call it site selection. It wasn't random. We flipped a coin and we go to Bushehr. A nuclear reactor anywhere in the world is designed to seismic requirements. Sanofi nuclear power plant next door is designed to, I forget, Richter 7.2. That means if there's a huge earthquake in Southern California or South Florida or Tappan Zee Bridge in New York, by the way, IP23 near Tappan Zee Bridge is designed by the company I worked for, Raytheon, for 12 years. We designed that. That containment will withstand the nominal earthquake for which it's designed for. Every other house will just demolish. See, what we don't know, we are afraid of, the Bushehr plants, Burns and Rowe, a credible American company, chose the site, and the parts, the containment, the motor, the control room, the piping are designed to withstand, we call it maximum credible earthquake, MCE. We don't want to get involved in seismic engineering. There are tens of earthquake seismic engineering who are involved with the design and siting of a nuclear power. Why? Besides, the nuclear power plant has to be near water. So we can't put it in Isfahan. Just because. So if it's high earthquake, look at the American nuclear power plant, 105 of them, mostly in East Coast. Many of them are in earthquake. California has 3 nuclear power plants. One still is operating near San Francisco. Am I worried about it? Heck no. It is designed to withstand the worst part. Now, if universe sends an earthquake tsunami, like Fukushima, that will flood, we don't talk about act of God. We design, your car brakes are designed to brake at the nominal speed of 50 miles within 10 feet stop. But if you go 120 miles an hour and you brake, you're going to kill a couple of people. The car brake is not designed for 120 miles or 200. A nuclear power plant does exactly what it is supposed to. Exactly. Look at the hurricanes in Florida. I'm not promoting nuclear power. I am a pro-nuclear person, but I understand, like a surgeon, the risk of a surgery. I understand what can go wrong in a control room on a night shift, okay? But we accept that risk. It's 10 to the minus 6, 1 in a million probability of core damage. But people look at, nobody talks about Union Carbide in India killing thousands of people with chemicals. Yeah, they come and they go. Fukushima killed 1 due to accident, more due to radiation. Chernobyl, I think, killed 34 people. Yes, it's a disaster. I don't underestimate the consequences. But it is needed, Mr. Mahmoud. It is needed. If you remove the 10% electricity this second the world is producing by 400 nuclear power plants, tell me, what are you going to replace it with? Solar? Low efficiency. Wind? Cost? Hydro? We've exhausted the hydropower of the world. Fusion is 100 years from now. So you and I have to be realistic, not idealistic. It is what it is. We accept the risk to drive, to walk, to use bicycle, and we accept the risk from every industry, including nuclear. But nuclear has the benefit of low carbon footprint, high efficiency, and is clean, the lowest carbon footprint. Now, if people want coal, they are welcome to get coal. Coal is really, really bad. Fly ash. Anyway,
Dr. Sarram, I can't agree with you more. The only thing that I have concern about is to spend some energy on safety as much as we can. That is basically my concern.
Yeah, thank you very much for this. Was a very lively debate and question and answer session, and I appreciate the time you spent and all of you to participate in this meeting. Thank you, Dr. Sarram, for your very informative talk. Since this is the case, I just want to promise that the next topic that we are having, it probably is more complicated than this one. And our next speaker would be Dr. Khosrow Dehnad, who asked the question. He will talk about the cryptocurrency. It's more complicated, I think, than what we are dealing with today. So he will be joining us on December 5th at 8 p.m., which is Sunday. And I hope you all can join us. And with that, I pass it to Mr. Hidayati to conclude this meeting. Mr. Hidayati? Okay. Are you mute? Okay. Well, okay. Sorry, I think Mr. Hidayati is not available. I just want to thank you again. And all of you participate tonight. I know it's 9:30 Eastern. It's almost 40 Eastern time. So you all have a nice evening, and thank you again, Mr. Sarram.
By the way, cryptocurrency won't be complicated. I'm going to make it easy.
Oh, we're gonna find out. You're gonna tell us how
exactly.
easy
So
it
you
is to
can
understand.
invest
Thank
in
you
it
very
and become
much.
millionaires. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.